think it was like a transition for me. And some people find it early, but some people find it later. And I was more or less a later on person.
So when you finally kind of nailed down this style that you wanted to go with, and you're putting together a portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
did you find that people were like really immediately receptive to it, or did you have to kind of like push people to like, what did people think of your style when you first showed it, to the world?
I think people were very nice about it. Because I made about 10 silkscreen hand printed pieces about Totai Island, and I presented in those original silkscreen format and making a book and adding like a zine or little books that I hand make. So people were immediately. I mean, art director have told me they saw this and immediately thought this person is different than other illustrator who's just using like a regular portfolio. So like and then they really liked the handmade quality of my work. So the aesthetic wise also it made them more interested in, okay, let's see what's on the paper. And because I did a 10 to 15 like sets of the same, explaining the same world but different character, different background, they're doing different things. So I think they saw kind of like a story behind the whole portfolio instead of having one editorial piece like another, self-portrait or like different pieces. It was all kind of all in one storytelling kind of thing. So I think, yeah, they were interested.
Good, yeah. When you went to, because you said you went and got your MFA too.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, like, in your opinion, was that like a step that you absolutely would do again? Because I know that's like a lot of things that gets talked about with like a lot of art students is, you get your BFA, do you make that move to move on to the next step? Like for you, what was the biggest like benefit of moving on to that next step?
My benefit, let's see. I simply went to MFA because of my visa situation. I'm an international student, and after BFA, I didn't have any status. So either going back to Japan or applying for MFA. And I only applied for one school, thinking, oh, if I get accepted, I'll go. But if not, I'll go back to Japan. And I probably was like the youngest person there, and I feel like MFA is great in different even you're younger or you're older, because it's a 2 years of you dealing with yourself and like finding out about yourself, and it did really help me finding my style, for example, or just concentrating what I want to do. And I guess the best things about MFA was to make a connection with other clients, because they would bring in past graduates or art directors to always critiquing your work. And you get the last year of school, you get advisors who you can pick, like your dream advisor, who is your dream advisor, they ask you. And I had a couple people in the list, and I really like illustration of Melinda Beck. So I picked her as my advisor, and she said okay. So I had a chance to work closely to a real working professional illustrators, and was great. And first few jobs that I got out of the school was from the clients that they brought to the school for critiques. So I felt like I was lucky to just go into the world and start working right away.
When you were working with your advisor, because we do a similar thing with mentors here, when you were working with your advisor, did you have a project that you worked on together, or was it more you worked on your stuff and got some feedback on it? Like, was it a collaborative thing, or was it sort of your own project?
It was more of my own project, and they're advising. It was for thesis, so you have a year to pick your thesis, and I visited her maybe once in 2 weeks, and she kind of worked closely with me, like giving me advice, and she's also a graphic designer, so she kind of gave me advice as a graphic designer's point of view. And her husband, Jordan, I thought he's more like, he is an illustrator also, but he's more into fine art. So he gave me a view from a fine art view. So I was really lucky that I got two kind of visions, and they were advising me closely.
How did you start getting into gallery work?
When?
Yeah, like how did you start doing showing in galleries?
Like, when did you make that transition where that started being something you did?
While I was in graduate school, I was interested in doing both gallery and illustration, and my thesis was about I made this book, and then they gave me a show, a solo show in a school, so I got to create the whole world based on this book. So I was kind of playing with the like creating a world and showing it as an installation during the school years. And we had a thesis show, and one of the curator from arts collective called Flux Factory, he saw my work and he proposed that I would show with them. So that's how I started, and in the later year I joined them as an art collective. They were kind of like a starting out art collective, and they are very open-minded, and it was really good for me to join such a young collectives, because there's so much opportunity and everybody had a great energy of like, okay, let's do another show on this, or we all had a good idea, and they did have a space to show, so that was great. And after starting to show there, I got, and I also have a website, and I got some group show out of my website also, and people started to contacting me after I start putting the photos from the show and this and that, and yeah, that's how it started.
When you are doing gallery shows and you're, I'm assuming, selling pieces that are there, what kind of, like, is there a really broad range of like different types of people that buy your work, or have you found like that there's like a certain market for your work, or are you kind of just selling to all different kinds of people?
I think selling through all different kind of people, because depends on the gallery. I feel that they have different audiences. Recently, I got into designing like